You know, Jim, sometimes I don't think I can get any more excited. I know I'm a spaz and people always talk to me about how I'm, over enthusiastic for Star Trek Adventures sometimes, if that's even possible. But I think we have a really winning show today. What do you think?
I'm super excited. The cast gets bigger and bigger every time we do a show, right? We keep getting more people, and it's just showing the love, right? Just expanding the universe. We're one big happy fleet, trying to get more perspectives in here. So you say you're a spaz, but I'm just as much of a spaz as you are. So let's jump in, man.
Okay, awesome. For those of you who maybe you're tuning in for the first time, this is Continuing Conversations, the podcast where we talk about everything Star Trek Adventures RPG. I'm Michael Dismuke. I'm one of the bloggers on Continuing Missions, sta.com. If you go there, I also am a freelance writer for Modiphius, the Star Trek Adventures line, loving every minute of it. And we're going to introduce Jim, and then we're going to go and introduce some very, very special guests and tell you why we've assembled this crew for today's mission. Jim, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I'm Jim Johnson, the project manager and line editor for the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game published by Modiphius Entertainment, and I am super excited for tonight. So just going in order here, working my way down the list on my screen anyway. Al, why don't you introduce yourself?
How's it going? Al Spader, contributing writer for Star Trek Adventures, freelance sci-fi lover, and all that fun stuff.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Al. Tony, next up.
Yeah, I'm Tony Pye. I'm a science fiction and fantasy writer and also a contributing writer for Continuing Mission, like Michael, and Star Trek Adventures, and also for City of Mist and the new Kickstarter, which I'll talk about later.
Cool. Very cool. And Susan and Tilly, whatever order you want to go in.
Well, we're kind of the same because we're writing one mind, so we're like one entity.
Sure, you're the host. I'm the symbiote.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Mm-hmm. Let's see, we write comics and Star Trek Adventures and
which
TV
we love dearly,
and podcasts.
We run a podcasting company, and yeah,
we do a little bit of everything.
We're everywhere. It's almost all sci-fi.
Yeah,
Nice.
We run Pendant Audio, and I don't know.
That's good for now.
That's good. That's good enough for now. Keep going.
Okay,
All
cool.
right.
So I have to ask though, because you mentioned being a symbiont. Are you a symbiont like in the idea of like Dax and her hosts? Or are you a symbiont like the Borg Queen and Agnes?
I was leaning more Trill than.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that Borg one's so cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we all have in
spoilers.
right. So what we all have in common is that you're seeing a group here with Al, Tony, Susan, Tilly, myself. We all have the privilege of having written mission briefs that are available for free generously through Modiphius to encourage people to play mission briefs in the Star Trek Adventures line. And so today's show is all about mission briefs. We're going to talk about why they came about in the first place. Jim's going to expound on that. We're going to talk about what our ideas were behind these mission briefs. And we're then going to talk about ones that we've played or ones we're going to really encourage you to play if you haven't yet. And again, I can't believe it, they're actually free. So these are a bunch of ideas that we can dump on the table for you and you can jump into. And as usual, we always love to hear your play reports. So the more you talk about how these turned out, the more wonderful we see how infinite and diverse the Star Trek universe is when it comes to imagination. So Jim, I'm going to let you take it from there and start. I'll let you take over the interview from here and pick it apart. And let's talk about mission briefs. What was behind them? Maybe
sure. Mission briefs. Okay. So mission briefs, back several years ago, I was working on the division source books, right? The Command Science and Operations Division source books. And in those, I wanted to expand on something that was in the core book in terms of creating plot components that game masters could use to try to add more stuff to their game, and especially find ways to get their different characters, the different player characters involved in the game. So especially the player character roles that don't tend to get a lot of play or a lot of love. Like, in my experience, the chief medical officer, the con officer, and the operations officer just didn't always have a lot to do. It was always the science and the science and the security and the engineers that were always the superstars that had just a lot to do, right? And I was like, there's got to be ways that we can get the other roles involved. And then after we did the division books, we went on to other products. And when we were doing the Klingon book, I was like, oh, well, here's an opportunity. I wanted to talk to game masters more about how to structure episodes and how to run, Star Trek adventures. And I also wanted to do other ways of presenting stories so that a game master could jump into a story really quick and start flying with their adventure with the group at the table. And so I stumbled on this kind of, I was doing a lot of notes and just writing things out. And I came upon this mission brief structure of, high level plot concept, and then 3 acts, and then a notional conclusion of how it could turn out, depending on what the players do. And, a lot of it was informed by the reading I've done on writing stage plays and screenplays. Because it's that classic structure, right? You get your people up into a tree, and then you throw rocks at them, and then you see how they get out, right? And they either fall out of the tree or they find a way to climb out of the tree or whatever. But that's the conceit of the mission briefs. Really, is you present your players with a problem, you throw complications at them, and then you see what happens, right? Basically. And as a game master, I thought it would be really nice to have it all on one piece of paper, one handy piece of paper that you could print off, have a stack of them. So that if you go to a night session and you're like, oh, I really want to run an episode for, say your chief science officer hasn't had much to do lately, you can pull out a chief science officer brief, adapt it, run it, and you're off and going. So anyway, that was the idea.
Yeah, and I want to ask to that too. Yeah. And again, Susan, Tony, and Al, as we talk about the construct of a mission brief, please feel free to jump in. Mm-hmm. But when you are actually looking, and I know when you're asking us to do these mission briefs, you're asking us to mix it up too. Yeah. Right. So I appreciate what you said about just being able to take the story and pull it for characters. I oftentimes encourage people to use them for B plots too. So we know Star Trek is known for having the main story, and then they also have a B plot running. These are great to adapt for that. Do any of the other players here do that? Or players or writers? Now I'm with a bunch of writers today. Do any of the other writers there do that? Do you run 2 stories at once during your gaming sessions?
Yeah, I ran a play-by-post for a while, and we would do mission brief as a B plot for some people that were on at different times. Like we had a couple of players that worked night shifts, so they would have a B plot going while the main crew had an A plot going. It worked pretty well.
Brilliant. I know, Susan and Tilly, you were talking to me earlier about how you play your game. I think it'll be interesting to hear that here right now. Talk to us a little bit about that, Tilly, because it sounds similar. It sounds like A plot, but.
Well, before we get into that, I just want to say, I play on both of our games, and I have sister characters, so they're related to each other. And on one ship, I'm the captain, and on the other ship, I'm the chief medical officer. And I actually like that there's less for the chief medical officer to do, because then I can relax a little bit.
The pressures of command.
Yes, the pressures of command.
Right. So I run 2 concurrent games with completely different crews and players, except for Susan. She's the only one who plays in both.
Right.
They're set in the same shared universe. So events from one game affect the events in the other. We've done giant crossover games where we get both crews together, which is a lot of players to wrangle. And it was really cool, though, because when we did that, I got a cameo from Denise Crosby, because Sela was the main villain. And so I got her to record this threat that it was great. They all lost their minds.
Awesome.
So yeah, we do that. But then in each game, we sort of have a B plot if we have time for it. We always focus on the A plot, but if there's time, then I do what I call downtime, which is to let the characters work on long-term projects that they might not get a chance to in the A story, or maybe they want to go. You have a player who's Betazoid, and he got an invite to go to the home of Ambassador Lawaksana Troy. And so he took a little time on his downtime to go visit her. And
we have another player, and her dad works on a different ship. And so she wanted to get together with her dad. So all these things help give those little moments that we can add into stuff.
Right. And then stuff happens from those that I'll take and incorporate into the A story later. on down the line. So we tie it all together that way.
Yeah. And
Nice.
the mission briefs, I think you were thinking of them more as like additional, like you could add it on to another, like a longer campaign, like as a
Right.
one session thing. Or sometimes obviously you can't control it goes for multiple sessions sometimes. But
Can't
you
control
know,
the players.
or
No.
everyone looks at that ship and goes, oh, we're tired. We're not investigating.
Let's
that.
run away.
Let's run away.
And all your work, it's just down the toilet.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, Tony, what about you? How are you using those mission briefs?
I haven't been able to incorporate B plots into my adventures because we have limited amount of time to play each night that we play, and so we stay focused for the most part. I think I probably described the mission briefs as kind of the reverse in that I have run some adventures and turned them into mission briefs, some of which I've posted on Continuing Mission. And I like the structure because you don't need to sketch out the entire adventure. And sometimes that has advantages. You can take it in whatever direction you want. And especially when converting adventures you've already created into mission briefs, you can phrase it in a way that there might be other solutions than the one that your own crew have played through.
Yep. Yeah. I know we've talked before. I like the structure of the mission brief so much that I now take the modules and I reverse engineer them into mission briefs because I play with a bunch of players who are creative and problem solvers. I don't need to do much hand holding. They take the story on their own. So for those of you who are listening in right now, mission briefs are so malleable. They're clay in the hands. Myself and Jim have talked before that, you know, if you're a first-time game master, maybe you do want to be walked through the starter set just so you see the mechanics of the game and some modules to see some of the variety. But more advanced game masters who are know the rules pretty well, or maybe don't even use the rules much because they don't do a lot of dice rolling. These acts, these plays basically set up really well. So Jim, again, I said I was going to pass it to you before, but now I'm going to really pass it to you so you can start talking and breaking.
Are you really?
The five. I'm not.
That's hard to let go, man.
So I can. We're going to talk about the 5 packs that are out so far. So Jim, take it from there.
All right, I'll try to take control. So you're the first off the. So I'm going to turn it right back to you, Michael, because you're the first one off the bat. So just to set it up here, once I got the proof of concept out, right, we did the Klingon book. The 12 mission briefs in there were pretty well received, including by you and some of the other writers on this call. And I was like, okay, I think this is a format I'll stick with. So I started adding mission briefs to each of our standalone adventures. So the writer would write a standalone adventure and add a mission brief to the end of it to notionally continue on the story if players and game masters wanted to. And so, I was happy with the format. The fans seemed to like it. I was like, okay, I'm going all in with this because I'm in that position to do it and no one's telling me not to. And so I commissioned a whole bunch of mission brief packs, including from all of you and other writers. So I think I had maybe like 9 or 10 of these in different stages of process, right? And I try to be very careful with the mission briefs and the standalones, not to dictate to the writers what their deadlines are, because these are really, I have a whole bunch of them in development, right? And I'm really, honestly, I want to see what the writers can do. And, honestly, it's a little bit of a test because I can see who's really passionate and who's trying to get their stuff done and who can write quickly and efficiently and write well, right, quickly. And it just worked out, Michael, that yours was the first in and edited and then approved and then developed, right? There's a whole 5 to 6 month process that you guys probably don't see. Maybe sometimes longer, because I think some of your stuff, I think Tony's, yours may have been the longest in development just because of schedules and things that happened that really we didn't have a lot of control over, right? It was just a lot of it was CBS. Not that they're bad, right? I mean, they're super busy because the CBS review team that we work with is responsible for approving everything CBS and Star Trek, right? So it's not just Modiphius, it's everything. And sometimes they get backed up. And I think some of the adventure briefs, this is digressing, but when it's convention season, they're busy off doing conventions. And so they're not busy sitting in their office reviewing stuff. But anyway, eventually it all worked out, right? And so Michael, your mission brief pack was the first it came out last spring, if I remember right, I think last March, 2021. and it was all about growing pains, the Enterprise era. So talk briefly about what are those 10 mission briefs about? What excited you about writing them?
Sure. I mean, I was excited. I'm one of, I'm not going to say the few people, but I like Enterprise. I didn't like it when it was initially out, except for seasons 3 and 4. But then I went and started it back from the beginning, and then I really liked it. I'm a big fan of Andorians, which I don't think ever get enough screenplay in Star Trek. So when you asked me this, I was like, oh my goodness, I get the chance to talk, continue the story that we saw in Enterprise. I think, Enterprise happens and then we go leaping forward into the TOS era, but there's a lot of story that happens in between there. And those politics of Andorians and Vulcans and Trill and Tellarites and come on, they didn't get along just because they put a stamp on, yeah, I'm a Federation member all of a sudden. That was impossible. So the idea behind this was to create as many stories to show all the clashes that would happen between these groups and the diplomacy that was required and setting up trade agreements and who were the enemies now, even picking up, in one case, one of my favorite stories is called Revenge of the Illyrians, picking up a story where Archer's Enterprise stole a warp core. Talk about breaking of a prime directive, stole a warp core. You're just going to leave it like that? Oh, no, I couldn't leave it like that. So I thought that there was a lot of threads to pull with it. And so for anybody who wants to play Enterprise era, which I hope one day I have a time to do, that was the purpose of these modules, was to really get people to think like, wow, what were the politics like at that time?
Nice. Thanks, Michael. I'll also add that that mission brief pack was only actually, it still is. It's only the second product that we released specifically for Enterprise. That era using the Enterprise layout. We try to do a different layout for each of the major eras of play. And one of the standalone adventures in the second compendium, Strange New Worlds, was an Enterprise themed adventure. So we did a customized layout for that using the look and feel of Enterprise. And I was really excited to be able to use it again in the mission brief pack because I knew that you would put a lot of work into those mission briefs. And I want more Enterprise stuff out there. It's just hard to get it all through the pipeline. So I was just excited to get that one out when we could. So good stuff. Yeah, thanks, Michael. Appreciate that. So then next up, we had the Bridges. Susan and Tilly, you were up next with the Disasters crew pack. And we'd love to hear your perspectives on how that came together, what you enjoyed about it, what's it all about.
It was very heavily inspired by the Next Gen episode Disaster, conveniently.
I remember we were talking about it. We were like, what do we want to do?
Well, right.
Because, like, you're a big Deep Space Nine person. I'm a big TNG person. And we've watched all of the shows twice
at least,
through.
Maybe more.
At least. We're doing a rewatch right now. We're on our second time through everything. And, yeah.
Well, I really always loved that episode really because every time something can go wrong, it does. And as a writer, I love that. And as a game master, I love that because that makes for the most interesting story. And it also had this great thing that really inspired me anyway from the episode, is that it forced all of these characters you didn't necessarily always see working together to have to work together and overcome problems together, which felt very much like this game after we had played it a bunch. And so it just sort of seemed to lend itself to that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I love problems. I love when we're playing games and players roll complications and I cackle and they all hate me for it, but I'm so happy. And it's not because I want things to go wrong for them, but it's just because that's when things get so interesting, when everything goes wrong. And it's the most fun then. So that was the big inspiration. They were really fun to write, but for me, at least, we normally write much longer. We write comics and screenplays and pilots. And so for me, it was really hard to pare it back so much. I'm like, but I want to put all these little character details in and this extra world building. There was no room. So that took a little getting used to.
It was tough. And I'm a pretty ruthless editor. So like I was really cutting. And then we still had to cut more in the end. And we were like, oh, all right. No cookie recipe in this one. All right.
I remember that. Yeah. Oh, I felt so bad that I had to cut that. But it's funny that you mentioned that, Susan, because it's like you all cut it down quite a bit to get it to me, right? And then I had to do another cut, and especially for the first two, for Michael's brief pack and your brief pack, because I had a concept in my head of how it would work out, and of course, a Microsoft Word document can have so many words on a page. And then when you translate that into the layout, it's all different because of the borders and the fripperies and the design elements and stuff. And all of a sudden, my 600 word per page estimate turned into like 500 or 550 or something. And I was like, oh no, I have to cut more. And so like the designer would send me the PDF, the draft PDF, and there'd be like, 2 paragraphs hanging off the bottom edge of the page. It's like, well, we need to cut to make that fit. And I was like, oh, shoot, what am I going to do? And then it's like, it was just painful to go in there and redline, like trying to pare it down and keep all of your voices in there. Because that's the most important thing for me as an editor, is to keep your voices in there and not just rewrite it just to make it fit. Right. And I was like, oh, I hate every single bit of this. I had like every time I was cutting a line, I was like, oh, I could feel it. It was like a scar coming on my body. I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. But finally, made it work. But I almost wish I could do like a movie
deleted
special
scene
feature like the cutting floor, all the bits that were cut, can I put all those back in somehow and do a special edition or something someday? But I don't know.
It taught me the power of conjunctions.
Yeah, I truly feel your pain in terms of like having to cut, because just know that I have to cut more, and it hurts me every time I do it. But also at the same time though, as an editor, like I remember when I was starting out writing, my editors challenged me. They said, if you can write something in 2,000 words, you can write it in 1,500. And for a long time, I was like, BS, there's no way I can do that. But sure enough, if I force myself to really focus on it, I could find a way to pare off a couple hundred words here and there and get more concise and get more creative with my language, and break out the dictionary and find different ways of saying the same thing more concisely. And like my limited experience with screenplays is that for a time there you had 120 pages. That was it. You could not go beyond that. So you had to get really creative to fit everything into that format. Stage plays not so much, because stage plays the writers are golden in stage plays. Pretty much the word is bond, and don't you dare mess it up in a stage play. But screenplays, of course, are so collaborative. Like, who cares, right? I mean, I hate to say that, but the writers are on the bottom of the end of the barrel, or at least it used to be 20 years ago. I don't know if that's true now, but I'm sure
it's mostly true. Although these days, 120 pages on a screenplay would be very frowned upon. That is, you have to be even shorter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally, you got to shoot for like 100.
Really? Yeah. That's fascinating, because movies are so long now. Right? Like,
right?
Yeah. Anyway, that's a digression. We could talk about that all night later. Well, cool. Thanks for that perspective, y'all. Thanks. Appreciate it. So now let's see. The third one on the list was, I think it was it was Anomalies, Al. So yours was next out, and that was the third one we released last year. And then there was a long drought because there was just so much other stuff ahead in the pipeline for mission briefs. So Al, let's talk about Anomalies. What was your idea there, and what brought that about?
I realized that my favorite episodes of Star Trek were when we were doing strange science-y stuff in space. I think about the Voyager episode Parallax. I loved it. Such a great episode so early on in a show. And I really wanted to do something that could be played in all eras. So a spatial anomaly can pop up whether you're on, in the Enterprise era, or whether you're, playing in the 2400s. So my goal was to write 10 briefs that could essentially be applied anywhere. My plan was to make them as general as possible so that they could be highly adaptable. So I didn't put character names in there. I didn't say which enemies they were. Basically just gave guidance. Hey, make this fit your story. You tell me who the enemy is. This is the thing that's happening. And so on and so forth.
Very cool. Yeah, great stuff. So then after Al, looks like we had Michael. I think we came back to you, right? We did the trade ledgers, the one with the Ferengi and the other characters. So talk about trade ledgers and what your experience was about writing that. What was your inspiration, etc.
There were 3 goals, 3 inspirations I had. One, I'm all about the Umox. I love Ferengis, and I mean, I just fell in love after Deep Space Nine. I hated them in TNG, I'll tell you the truth. But after Deep Space Nine, I love every Ferengi episode there is. I even sometimes just binge watch episodes with Ferengis in them. Just well written, you know. Second is it was actually because of you, Jim. I wanted to get as many packlids into a mission brief pack as possible. I know you love packlids, and I was like, man, how many packlid stories can I get in here? So that was another one. And then the third one was, again, another species that we haven't seen enough of on screen, the Gorn. And so I wanted to get those three elements into a pack and really focused around what we call spice of life campaigns. We refer to that in the Game Masters and Players Guide, where there's a lot of business going on in the Federation constantly. I mean, there's treaties, there's trade agreements, there's piracy, and this was all about the business that helps the Federation in the 24th century run. So that was the mindset behind trade ledgers, with the idea that people could drop them into a current game, a TNG era game. But again, you can adapt these so that people could extract out Ferengi if they're not yet in your game and put in, maybe Orions. You could use Orions at almost any era now, all the way into, the 32nd century. So that was the goal of it. Just talk about the business that makes the Federation run.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I thought it was an interesting challenge too that I thought you did well with, is that of course the Federation is primarily a moneyless society, and yet there's this whole like subgroup of people that use money and are in the Federation. You got like you said, the Orions, the Ferengi, like a lot of the people in DS9, the traders and the barterers and stuff. It's like, well, I mean, they're not Federation, so how are they trading their goods? How are they selling their goods? There must be some way. I was just glad to see that it worked through those mission briefs. Good stuff. And then that brings us to Tony. So you were the author of the fifth one that just came out. This literally came out a couple months ago. Star-Based Adventures. So Tony, tell us a little bit about your inspiration for writing this one, and tell us all about it.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite series is Deep Space Nine. When you brought up the idea of the mission briefs, I was thinking, all right, if I set on a starbase, I could structure it so that it could either be a missing season of Deep Space Nine, or it could be set on one space station. People just play crew of that, or it could be different star bases that they visit in the course of a starship going from place to place. And it doesn't have to be Federation; it could be other species. So I started structuring it like a missing season of Deep Space Nine. Just wondering, who would be the characters, who might be, the stars in this episode. So I started thinking about it in that way, and then just made sure that they were general enough that they could be transplanted to other star bases, and that they don't all have to take place in the same space station. So I hope it worked, and that hopefully some people will play the entire thing as a single season of their cruise adventures.
I just got to jump in. I got to say, I've forbidden my players to really look at this because we plan to use it. It was perfect timing, Tony, on this for our game, and the concepts I thought were phenomenal.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, one of the things I appreciate about the mission brief format, especially yours that worked out, Tony, is because these have a relatively short development time, partly because they're digital and they can get out the door faster. They can get into people's hands faster than a print product. If I identify a thing in the line that we're short on, it's like, oh well, I could do kind of a stopgap mission brief pack and kind of shore that up a little bit. And like Star-Based Adventures was one of the things that's always been on my radar. Like I got to do some sort of standalone that's on a starbase, centered on a starbase, because I know that there's a contingent of gamers out there who are playing on starbases, right? Like you got your Starship Adventures. We got plenty of Starship Adventures, but we're just the way the line has flowed. There haven't been a lot of opportunities to do adventures on a starbase. And I was like, well, I mean, other than like Narendra Station and the Shackleton, but even then, the first season of the Living campaign was all ship based. We tried to reference the station a couple of times, but just couldn't get there because we were so focused on the ships and stuff. But I was really glad that you had that idea for the Star-Based Adventures, because it was like, yes, this is perfect. I can plug it in, and then that gives the people that are doing Star-based adventures 10 immediate episode ideas that they can take and they can run with. So I thought you did great with that. I got 2 questions for everybody, but before I do that, I just want to do a quick preview. I've got like 5 more mission brief packs they're either ready to go or are in development. They're going to be released every other month this year in opposition to standalone adventures. So I've got standalone adventures and mission briefs coming out every other month this whole year and into next year as well. I think we're going to keep that going because for the first time in 5 years on this line, I'm actually ahead of the game in terms of digital releases. Finally, I'm catching up to my backlog because I don't know if you guys realize it, but the Star Trek Adventures development team is pretty much a person of one, and that's this guy.
wait, you told us there's 5. Are you going to drop any hints about what those are? I mean, are you just going to leave that? 1, 2, 3 of them have been approved and are in layout now. The other 2 are still being approved. So I don't want to talk about the ones that haven't been approved yet. I have no doubt they will be approved because that's just the relationship I have with CBS right now. But the other 3, I guess I'll spoil it. I mean, we never get spoilers. I can't tell you how many times. I got to say this is momentous. So I like this combination of people because it's doing something to Jim. But I beg all the time, like, come on, dude, give us some spoilers. We heard it here first. So this is you heard it here first. Moment. Let's have it.
I'm not going to tell you who wrote them because I'll save that surprise. Although the next one, somebody on this call wrote it. The next one up is Psychic Incursions. That'll be out. If it's not out this month, it'll be out next month. I can't remember the schedule. I don't have it in front of me. So Psychic Incursions, all kinds of missions about weird things happening in the mind, right? So and we see this all the time on Star Trek, right? Whether it's mind melds or mind melds gone wrong or some sort of telepathic shenanigans going on. So that one's coming up next. Soon, at some point thereafter, we got a whole mission brief pack set on First Contacts. And then we've got one all about space wrecks. So crashes and wrecks in space, things are going on. Also, the briefs so far have been TNG heavy. Now, of course, the conceit is that these can all be adapted for use in any era of play, but most of these were written specifically for TNG. Of course, you can adapt them, but they all went with the TNG trade dress. A couple of the packs coming up are going to be original series. So we'll get to see some original series mission briefs, which I'm really excited about. Because I think the only time we've used those are in the standalone adventures and in the Shackleton book. We've got a bunch of mission briefs in the Shackleton book.
I mean, what I'm loving about what you're saying is, if we think about the titles of these anomalies, disasters, space station, trade ledgers, growing pains, and now these that you mentioned, you really could diversify your seasons of play or keep to one theme the entire time if you want to. So really, really good selections on those themes and genres. Very nice.
Yeah. I think what's exciting for me, as like a quasi executive producer of the line, right? If you want to look at that, is that each of these mission brief packs have 10 adventures in it, right? So that's effectively 10 episodes. So just with these 5 free, did we mention that they're free? With these 5 free mission brief packs, that's 50 episodes that you could potentially run like as is, and that's just an embarrassment of riches. I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying, like, new game masters and players coming into the game now, as opposed to 5 years ago, there's such a wealth of material. Not just the standalone adventures that you can go buy, but like these free mission brief packs. Like, if you're a creative GM and you can take these and use them as intended, you got gaming material for a year or more. I mean, depending on how often your group play, like assuming your group plays once a week, you got a year's worth of content right now. Actually, more than that, because if you include the free living campaign stuff that's still out there on the website. Anyway, I digress. So just, rest assured, Star Trek Adventures, tons of free content. You don't have to buy a lot of stuff if you don't want to. And, I'm a big company shill, but like really all you need is a core book and a bunch of players and you're good. You're good to go. So anyway, all that being said, I had 2 questions for everybody. The first question is, this is just kind of a roundtable. Anybody can answer it, or I could go around the room, but I don't want to put anybody on the spot if you don't want to answer it. First question is, because you're all game masters and players, but you're all game masters especially. Do you? And please don't answer just to make me feel good, because I don't really. I care, but I don't care, because like this is just me doing product. Are you using the mission briefs for your game? Like does the overall flow of it fit your game mastering style? And I guess that's the main question: is, are you using them? And do they fit the way you do things, or are you finding ways to adapt them to fit the way that you game master? Go ahead, Michael. You got your hand up.
Yes, and yes. I think I mentioned it before. I think last week on our last show, Jim, that I played Marvel superheroes in different varieties for nearly 30 years, and not once did I ever use their modules. And now 50% of my games are built from these modules. So more so than the modules, the longer modules, the mission briefs have even been better for me, because since I have experience and experienced players, it's worked out really well. And what I try to do now is pack 2 stories into one. So I try to get an A story and a B story using the variety of packs, mission briefs always being involved. And then I was telling Al, which I can say because he's aware of a story we're building, that I even have my next campaign is 3 mission briefs and a module packed into one story. So I took the best bits of all of them and compiled them into there. So for someone like me who's just scouring for ideas to create intriguing stories, it's worked out really well.
Very cool. Very cool. Other perspectives or comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the adaptability of these things are amazing. And like Michael said, even just for an idea that you can run with, it doesn't even need to be the entire brief. It could be just a little portion of that that I've been trying to splash into my games since they were released, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was actually just thinking about the disasters brief. And we've been toying around with extended consequences. And I was thinking that would be really good. Like if an extended consequence fails, throwing one of these at the players, I think that would be really, really cool. A cool way to use some of the new rules that have come out in the Game Master Guide.
That's a neat idea.
I love it. You shouldn't have given me that idea.
Tony, Tilly, Susan, anything else?
Yeah.
Anything to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Well, because Al is in my campaign, I couldn't use the ones that he had written, but I did kind of take one of the missions that I had proposed for Starbase Adventures, and I changed it up. It was the Packlid one on a space station, and I kept the idea of the Packlid, but changed the actual events that happened. But in a way, it was easy to adapt what I had written to modify for a new concept, but still keeping a lot of the things I had in there. The same Packlid crew, but the actual solution of the adventure was quite different, and involved, in this instance, I changed it to a strange device that a Packlid crew had recovered from an unknown starship, and it was a really strange interdimensional drive. And so it's that instead of what I actually had in the Starbase Adventure. And it went well, but until they rolled a really bad critical at the very end, which changed the entire direction of the game when they got sucked into the interdimensional void. I like them, these mission briefs, in the sense that they're very adaptable. You could change little details here and there, or even big details, and still have a wonderful game.
Yeah, nice, very cool. No, that's great. I love that. I love hearing that perspective. Susan, Tilly, any thoughts on the mission briefs in general?
I haven't had much occasion to use them yet, because I have to so meticulously plot both games to make sure that they don't contradict each other and have a shared history. But at the same time, most of my players in both games are also writers. And so they're always one step ahead of me, because there's a room of them and I'm just one, and they all figure out what I'm doing ahead of time, and they break it every time, and then I have to adapt to them and also not break the other game. It's a really tough
so many times you're like,
I've made for myself.
I never thought you would do that.
No plan ever survives contact with the players.
Yeah.
Never.
Funny. No, that's great. Any other thoughts, Susan, or anything you wanted to add to that? I heard most of it, but do you do any game mastering?
The only funny thing is that like some of the ones we did the mission briefs for were things that I'd already played, and then some of them hadn't been played yet, and then later they come up, and I'm like, I have to pretend I don't know what this is.
Nice. That's cool. No, that's great. I love hearing all your perspectives, and I'll tell you. I mean, as a, I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but like whale readers just read as much as possible, and I love reading Star Trek. I've got so many of the Star Trek novels on my Kindle that I just read because I just love to absorb stories so much. And these mission briefs are a treat because I get to read 10 new stories every time someone sends me a submission. And it's like, and it always sparks off ideas. It's like, oh, I can do this, and I can do this. I could put this in my game. And it reminds me, most of you were talking about how adaptable they are, right? And I was cleaning out my son's room the other day, and he's got one of these books. I'm sure you've seen them. It's like an art book where you've got like the book is like got 12 different pictures in it, and each picture is cut into 3 pieces so that you can flip different parts of the pictures and create different pictures by having 3 different cuts of it, which is hilarious, right? Because like you make goofy pictures because you got the eyes and the nose and the face and stuff. And I was thinking about the mission briefs. And I was like, well, shoot, if you change the format and you had a bunch of Act 1s and a bunch of Act 2s and a bunch of Act 3s stacked up on top of each other, you could literally mix and match those and come up with all kinds of crazy episodes. And I was like, I need to find a web developer who can take all of our mission briefs and throw them into this database. Like you get some random Act 1, some random Act 2, and some random Act 3, and you've got exponentially more potential story ideas. And I was like, oh, how can I do that? And then the thought passed me by, and I forgot about it. But I was oh man, there's just so much story here that you can play with, and because they're so, like you all said, they're just so adaptable. And so I'm going to store that thought into my noggin here. Go ahead, Michael.
There's one other thing that I notice happens with mission briefs that doesn't happen as much with modules. And I've noticed is mission briefs lend more to the episodic storytelling of the Treks we love, the classic Treks, TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. And what I mean by that is that each mission brief ends up having like one really standout character that interacts with the characters. We honestly, out of mission briefs came some of our most interesting antagonists who then come back for guest starring. And I don't know if any of you have noticed that, or maybe when you were writing it, you purposely were looking for a prime antagonist or something. But I've noticed that mission briefs lend itself to having these, episodes where you remember the personality. And I love when, Lwaxana Troy comes on board, or an alien who is a resurrected ex-Starfleet officer going back to Voyager. I love when you have one character that always sticks with you after playing a game, and mission briefs seem to be doing that more than the modules. I don't know if other people feel that way.
Well, you know what, Jim, in Modifia number 2, Vulture Among the Stars, that module was actually, I felt was similar to a mission brief in that it was small, it was runnable within a session or two. And it was just wonderful because, that's how I taught my players how starship combat worked. Mm-hmm. Like Michael said, so the villain from there became a long-time villain in my campaign. It's great.
Like Ghost Rider too. Ghost Rider was another truncated mission, which we still talk about 4 seasons in for those who had played that one. So I think that's one of the powers of the mission brief is you can wrap this story, this brief around this main character. And I usually take a famous actor, person, or politician, and I convert that into the character so I know how to play them at all times. And so the mission brief gives you a chance to do that, I think.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, in the interest of time, I'm going to cut my second question, partly because it's self-serving, but also because this is the wrong venue. So I'll reach out to you all separately about it.
Well, now I want to hear the question.
I'll tell you what the question was, and then we'll just let it go because it's really not critical. And plus, we've had a good time. But my question was going to be, as a game master, or especially as a writer, right? Looking at the format of the mission briefs, because I am always focused on improvement and process improvement and being creative and innovative in how we do things for not just for the line, but just for the game masters and players out there. Like, how would you, like, if you had the ability to change one thing about the mission brief format, what would it be? And I mean, we can, now that it's out of the bag, Michael, I guess you can answer it if you want to. But as I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, A, we've gone on for almost an hour and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. But B, this is a little self-serving because I'm kind of like pulling the crowd here. Like, how would you change it if you wanted to change it? Because I'm always thinking about modifying it. So I guess I'll throw the question out there before I ask you all what you're up to. But if you could change one thing about the mission briefs, what would it be in terms of format?
I can answer that. One thing that I think would be helpful is to be able to draw upon other, like a wider variety of, antagonists to modify. Right now, we're working off the core book, but that doesn't provide enough variety for things. So maybe something like a mission brief, but maybe a antagonist brief where that's free, and then we can also refer to that. You just need to download that and
Okay. I gotta agree. You can't really, there's not room to do much else on this when you give us these word limits. We need space for words. So I don't want any art, but what Tony just said, like, even if at the end of a mission brief, you had one page with 4 antagonists on it, or space for, I can put a piece of wacky technology that I referenced to there and some stats for it. Maybe each brief has just one page with one, we as the writer gets to choose 1, 2, 3, 4, what we're going to use to display there. That would give us a lot of options.
Yeah, I like that because I've invented a couple of unique tech things that I think we could use in mission briefs in the future, but I don't know how we would incorporate that in the present format. And I also think from a writing standpoint that there's so little space that it's really important to get the story beats out there for the different acts and the little resolution, but there wasn't enough space, I felt, to really, we tried to put at least one NPC into each thing so that the game master had somebody to work with, but we couldn't really get any information about them or stats or anything like that. So if there was even just a little spot to provide a little character block for the one NPC or something, for just a little bio about them or something, that would help. I think it would help us provide more context for the GMs and maybe give them something more to work with, so that they didn't have to, it was so hard to get the NPC's personality into that little bit, and so any little bits that you could maybe give the GM to help with that might help.
Okay. Al, any thoughts?
I think it'd be neat to have reference episodes on that first opening page that people could look into and just kind of set the tone for the briefs. Like if I could put Voyager Parallax in a little sidebar on that first page, recommended viewing, I think is what we call it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
That might be cool.
Oh, you mean episodes themed to the pack? Here's some disaster episodes to go watch. Here's some anomaly episodes to go watch. That kind of thing. Yeah, that's a great idea. Actually, these are all great ideas. And for the listeners, this is a project manager, line editor, sneaking in pulling the writer stable to talk about the sausage making here. So I hope you appreciate the peek behind the scenes here.
I wasn't told this is going to be a work meeting.
Jim's like, let's get to it. All right.
I got some ideas. All right, well, cool. So again, wanting to respect everybody's time, I want to take an opportunity to go around and just ask everybody, what projects are you working on right now that you can talk about, and plug yourself a little bit, and then we'll head into the usual closing. I'll turn it back over to Michael. But why don't we start in the reverse order that we started with earlier? Susan and Tilly, what are you all working on right now that you can share, or that you want to share with the listening audience?
Well, we are always releasing new podcast episodes through our company, Pendant Productions, which you can find at pendantaudio.com. Almost all of our shows are scripted. Almost all of them are sci-fi. We've had 6 of our shows being Apple's all-time top 60 sci-fi scripted shows, so that's really cool.
Awesome.
So you could definitely check that out. our comic, our first creator-owned comic, came out a little while back. It's called Kill Switch. It's cyberpunk sci-fi action. So you could find that on Amazon. And our latest comic is coming out in an anthology that's coming out this summer called Color of Always, which is an LGBTQ anthology. And we've done, well, we can't wait to talk about the consulting that we've done on a certain TV show, but we're not allowed to talk about it yet. But we're really excited about that. And I don't know, what else do we have going on?
I don't know.
There's more, but it's too much.
We have a comic we're working on.
Another comic?
Yeah, but that is not, we can't talk about that yet, really.
No. And we're in development with a showrunner and a producer on an adult animated series pilot that we wrote. And I don't know. There's too much. There's too much.
But
We're
on Twitter. You can find us there.
If you go to birdguest.com, that is our writing website. It has links to all of our work and our social media.
But we're mostly on Twitter.
Very cool.
For people who look at the continuing missions blog, just do a search on Bridges, and all those links are there. We have them from a great interview we did with them originally.
Yep, and stay tuned. You'll see them in more Star Trek Adventures products coming up here pretty soon.
We're very excited about those.
Yay. I'm so excited too. I can't wait to talk about it. All right, so we'll jump over to Tony. Anything you want to share that you talked to about your stuff you're working on?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to be a writer for a Kickstarter called Tokyo Otherscape. It is a kind of like a mythic cyberpunk game. And it's being produced by Son of Oak, who produces the role-playing game City of Mist. So using a new City of Mist system, and I'm pretty excited about it. Just fantasy, technology, and all sorts of cyberpunky goodness.
Other people are excited about it too, Tony. It's at $167,000 of its $35,000 goal as of today.
Wow.
Well, it's funded in 39 minutes.
Congrats.
Love it. Yeah. And in fact, just anecdotally, I remember I was at Gen Con. Gosh, this must have been 3 years ago now, and we were selling City of Mist at the Modiphius booth, and it was. I had a chance to flip through because I'd never heard of it before, and it's really cool. The art just blew me away. It looked great, so I can't wait to see what your Kickstarter comes up with. So, thanks for sharing. That's awesome. Al, what do you got working on that you can share?
Well, aside from the Star Trek Adventures stuff that we've got coming up, I'm also going to be writing for another sci-fi role-playing game that has a popular IP that I can't really talk about beyond that. And then a bunch of personal stuff on the DMs Guild for D&D 5th edition. We'll be putting out a bunch throughout the summer. So
super cool. Yeah, the hard thing about being an editor is hearing that your freelancers have work to do with other companies. It's like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to use you. But I keep hoping. But I'm thrilled to hear that you're all busy, right? That's the great thing, is that you're busy and that you're working, and that's awesome. I'm so excited for you, and I can't wait to see what you all come up with next. So, Michael, what are you working on that you can talk about beyond Star Trek Adventures?
You're sitting on me with the NDA. I can't say anything. I just know I have about 8 months of work that's going to keep me busy.
More to come.
Yeah, I mean, I always have my comic, which I had self-published and did Kickstarters to publish before, called Game Masters, which if I have time, I can get back to trying to go the animation route with it. But for right now, it's all Star Trek Adventures all the time.
Very nice. Well, thank you. I appreciate your efforts. I appreciate everybody's efforts on this call. You keep me going, and you keep bringing me joy. All the great stuff that you release, and it makes me so happy to see you all doing such great work. So I'm thrilled that I've got you all lined up. I think I've talked to all of you about projects coming up. So I will keep feeding you as much as I can. I got plenty of work. Like I've told Michael before, I've got the development roadmap for the next 2 years laid out, and it's just a matter of making sure schedules align so I can get you all involved in more stuff. So I'm sure you'll be hearing from me if you haven't already. So, Michael, let's bring it home here. Let's talk about thank yous.
Well, my first thank you is actually going to be to you, Jim, and to Modiphius, because one of the best things I'm loving about even just this group getting together is 10 years ago, if you had a bunch of people who wrote an RPG, wrote for an RPG, they probably all looked alike. And now it's nice to see that you and Modiphius have made such an effort to make sure to get stories from everyone. So a big thank you goes to Jim Johnson, who of course is the project manager at Modiphius, which is going in the right direction, which Star Trek wants us to go in also. So that's wonderful.
Thank you. I am gratified and humbled to hear that. This is one of the more diverse panels that we've had for a while now in Star Trek, and I'm excited. The next project we have coming out is the most diverse crew of writers we've had on a book so far, and I can't wait for it to finally be announced so that I can talk about it, because I am just so thrilled about everybody who worked on it. And anyway, so I want to thank, because we're talking about mission briefs, we're talking about story. I need to thank every mentor who ever mentored me on writing. The list of names is way too long to go into. Screenplays, stage plays, Star Trek, especially, just all the writers and producers who've inspired me over the years and helped, and also RPG writers who helped fill my brain with story and story structure and ways to do it effectively and to make it happen. And that's my end product is the mission briefs. And I'll continue to refine it, especially based on all your feedback you just gave me, because now I've got some ideas on how to do it more better next time. So Al, anybody you'd like to thank? We can take an opportunity here.
I really want to thank Michael for
Al. You're gonna need to slow down.
Oh, he's lagging.
Hold on, Al. You're caught in a temporal anomaly. Hold on, Al. You were caught in a temporal anomaly, some sort of disaster for a second. Start again. We missed it. That was weird, but go ahead. Unmute yourself.
All right. Am I out of the time loop yet?
You're good.
All right, cool. Just Michael, a year and a half ago, you asked me to be on a panel to share some stuff. And that was when I met you and Jim. And I really appreciate that. And then you brought me on board to your game. And that really showed me what Star Trek Adventures can be. So I thank you.
You're welcome. It was a gift for me, for sure.
And Tony, any thank yous you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, I would like to thank Michael and Colin Wilson. Both of them brought me on to Continuing Mission, which was awesome because I got to learn how to write for games and develop all these things. And I don't think I'd be doing much game writing if it wasn't for the years at Continuing Mission with those great fellows.
Let me add a footnote to that too. He has a mission brief called Hyperspace Blues that he wrote first on Continuing Missions, and creme de la creme. So Tony, always love reading your stuff, and that was one of our favorite adventures.
Nice. And finish it up here. Tilly, Susan, anybody you'd like to thank? Shout outs?
Well, I'd like to thank you, Jim, because I adore this game down to the bottom of my heart, and getting to work on it has just been an absolute joy. So I'm so glad that we get to be part of the team that helps make this. And I want to thank Susan because she is my writing partner, and without her, I would be half the writer I am. So can't do it without you, babe.
I want to thank Jim for still considering us to write, even after Chili posted about the game 400 million times on Twitter.
That's bad?
I'm like, are you coming across as a bit of a nutter? I hope not.
Have you seen how much I tweet about the game?
Yeah, I didn't even use Twitter until I was infected by Jim's Twitter. now I tweet. I didn't tweet before.
From the bottom of my heart, I can't thank you enough. I can't believe it's taken this long for us to get together on a phone call. So thank you so much for being willing to come along for the ride. So I am, like I said, humbled every day that I've got an amazing group of people to work with. You all lift me in ways that I can't tell you. But thank you all for being here. Michael, how do we wrap this thing up here?
Hey, as I said at the top of the show, I knew this was going to be one of the best ones ever. It's nice to see all this enthusiasm for Star Trek Adventures and mission briefs especially. So definitely guess we will be having back and watching everyone's careers too. I'm inspired. Such a creative group of people. So thank you everyone for tune in into continuing conversations. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Live long and prosper, everybody. I'll be talking to each of you real soon.